Carolyn with 5 Acres Honey Farm. We had our first snow of the year here in North Carolina, at least in our part of North Carolina. I know there's snow out in the mountains, but we're in the more central area, and we usually just get 1, maybe 2 days of snow a year if we're lucky. And I love it when it melts and goes away and doesn't hang around, but this one's melting really fast, so you can see, and you probably hear, it's our gutters are very loud as it melts off. I'm going to forage for some pine needles to make pine needle tea. I haven't made this in a while, and I was just reminded of it through social media, and I'm like, it's actually like a really high in vitamin C and a nice thing and a nice kind of aroma and flavor to have in the winter. And what's cool is that it's free and it's here, and so I'm gonna go grab some. Just taking enough to make about a cup or 2 of tea. And I've never tried, gathering any pine needles to like dehydrate and preserve. There's just always so many in abundance year round. So right here, if you have any ideas, you can kind of see how everything slopes down. So from there's a few trails that go up this way. And we've got the slope here and the seasonal creek that runs through. And this area is just mud, all sloppy mud. And so we're losing soil and we're not able to use the space. So I'm taking a permaculture design class, and I think one of the things I'm going to propose, we'll see if it's a good idea, is to build a swale in this space here and another one over here to kind of catch all the runoff that's coming down from this area and prevent it from really making this a soppy space. And then by having the swale up here, what I'm planning to do, again, please tell me if this is a good idea, you can hear how slimy this is and sloppy, is I'm going to cut down all these immature pine trees that are here. And then these plants here, which don't have any leaves on them right now, these are actually autumn olive, which are an invasive species in the area, and our woods are just full of them. So it's a lot to tackle, so I'm just going to focus on this space, but I'm going to cut out the immature pine, these autumn olives throughout here, and then the little cedar I'm going to leave, and there's holly trees I'm leaving for the bees. But what I'd like to do is then move some baby cedar from other parts of the property that are not in really ideal spaces and put them in here, and also move some tulip poplar in here, and then use this space as one of the areas where we can grow our own firewood. So it gets full sun for pretty much half the day in the summer. It gets all the sun coming in from the east through midday, and then it goes into the shade. So it would have a lot of opportunity to grow in there, and then if the swale is here, then it would have the water from the swale. Is this a good idea? I'm not sure. So let me know what you think, or if you have some other method that could solve this erosion problem here. One of the things I love to do on snow days is just walk through the woods. There's less of a risk of ticks, and it's just easier to get around without worrying about bugs. And one of the other things I love to do is walk through the creek, because there is so much more runoff and it looks much more like a river than a creek, and it's just so beautiful. The quail seem to be totally oblivious to the snow and they're just hanging out, and I was glad it didn't get below freezing, so their water didn't have any risk of freezing, and they just kind of hung out and stayed cozy. I'm not expecting to see too much activity right now. Today our high is 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's just about when they'll start to come out. But I'm actually filming this on Thursday, and I'm going to post this tomorrow. The garlic looks pretty good. I didn't bother to mulch it. It's not really too cold. It actually only got down to 34 degrees last night. And the pond looks great. All right, I just boiled some hot water and just going to add the pine needles to a little tea strainer and get them set up to steep. All right, I've got my pine needles in my tea strainer and I'm going to add it to my teacup. I'm going to put honey in a little bit later because if you put honey with boiling water, it really eliminates all of the beneficial properties of honey because it's just too hot. So I'm going to fill this up and let it hang out for maybe like 15-20 minutes before I add my honey. And I also like to cover this because that helps preserve the beneficial properties of what you're brewing. Okay, it's been about 20-25 minutes that the pine needles have been steeping, and I'm going to add the honey. And a little tip that I can give you when you are putting honey into a beverage or cooking with honey is to use a clean spoon or other tool that doesn't have any moisture on it, and to kind of be a little quick. I particularly, this is my Beekeeping Mentors honey, but I do use all the jars that I bottle with can fit a standard teaspoon into them because I find pouring honey out of jars is a little messy. You can kind of control what goes in here. So what I do is I have the clean spoon, and if I was cooking around heat, I would keep this away from heat. And the reason that I'm telling you this is that removing the heat factor and preventing any moisture being introduced into the honey will help prevent it from crystallization of the honey. Eventually, honey will crystallize. It's still edible. If you want to prevent it from happening sooner, then you can do that. So what I do is I figure out how much I really want, so I don't double dip, and I'm done. So I just cover it up right away. It wasn't exposed to any heat or moisture, and I'm done with that. And I've got what I've wanted for my tea, so I just mix that in. And because it's had some time to sit, it's not near boiling or at a temperature that's going to take away all the beneficial medicinal properties of honey. And I feel like this is a good winter drink to have, both for immunity and just for the, having the aroma and flavor of pine. And I'm curious if you have any certain drinks that you like to make on snow days or in the winter. If you have made pine needle tea before, what else do you put in it? I was thinking of adding some lemon balm or lemongrass and maybe some floral teas that I have. I also harvest from the tea olive tree in the fall, so I have a few flowers from that, and that has a really sweet floral flavor that I think would go really well with this. I'll probably do that later with the extra needles that I harvested, because I just harvested some. I could have done a whole pot, but it's just me drinking it, so I figure I'll just make it as I need it throughout the day. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.